Ladies and gentlemen, as the northern frontier land of the country, Cao Bang is inhabited by many ethnic groups with diverse culture, imbued with national cultural identity. Each ethnic group has its own unique culture and beautiful customs preserved through generations, which have nurtured their soul and cultural space. Today, we will explore a place where the unique cultural features have been preserved and stored. From Cao Bang City, following the National Road 3 to the east, we will reach the Mat Phuc Pass, also known as Kneeling Horse Pass. Legend has it that at this place, the host of the people's leader, Nung Chi Cao, went to heaven after defeating the northern invaders. Standing on the top of the pass, we can see small villages in a small valley between mountains, where the villages of Nung An people are located. According to historical researchers and ethnographers, they were the early settlers in this land just after the Tay people, considered as one of ancient indigenous groups. Pac Rang is one of the villages of Nung An people in Phuc Sen commune, Quang Uyen district, Cao Bang province. Despite the ordinary landscape, this village has a unique cultural space imbued with a national identity. The village of Nung people often has from 15 to 20 houses, most of which are two-story houses, including the downstairs of from 2 to 5 compartments, where nursing tours and livestock or poultry are kept. Upstairs holds the family's living space with kitchen, living room, place for worshipping ancestors, and bedrooms. Outside the house is a place for drying agricultural products, drying and weaving fabric, or for community activities. People here still keep the traditional job of weaving and indigo dyeing. The dominant color in the custom of Nung An people is indigo. Their outfits are not picky in motifs with a mix of indigo and white. The motifs are often embroidered on children's clothes, purpose, bag, scarves. They make out custom by themselves. Firstly, they buy cotton at the market, spin it into a thread, and then weave it into a fabric. After that, it can be dyed with indigo, cut, and finally sewn into clothes. The custom is simple but discreet, honoring the human beauty. The traditional clothing for women is comprised of plain skirt, which buttons at both ribs with wide sleeves, a belt and large pants. It is also worn with an indigo turban on the head along with a towel stuck in the belt or bag. The men's costume consists of large pants, a short skirt buttoned obliquely in one side. Nowadays, the people still wear this traditional clothing, especially in the wedding of the Nung An. As a result of market economy growth, many customs and cultures of ethnic groups have been lost. However, Nung An in Pac Rang village still retain and preserve many cultural customs. It is praised as a leading commune in Cao Bang province for conserving and promoting the traditional cultural heritage. One of the most impressive things for tourists in the winding, artistic, and solid stone fence on both sides of the roads. The stone here is a very popular material in the people's lives. Stone was put around the house, in the garden, and on the field. In the past, the cattle were often grazed, so people lined the fences to prevent animals from getting out of the field. However, because the cattle grazing made the environment unhygienic and affected the people's life and visitors, this habit was removed. Nowadays, they don't use the ground level to keep the cattle, but they keep them in a separated barns.
Something to eat, sausages. Saucisson. Very
As a result of community tourism projects, this revolution has changed the perceptions and practices of the people here. One of the most traditional handicraft is forging. all kinds of products including cutting vegetable knives, paring knives, bushwhacker, scimitars, sickles, scissors, plowshare. Every household owns one or two forged items. Both children and elderly here know how to forge basic agricultural tools. Inanimate metal pieces become useful objects serving human needs by skilled hands of Nung'an people. They also contain the cultural essence and the blacksmith soul. Products of this village are famous for not only their design, but also for their unique know-how handed down through many generations. Currently, they are sold locally and exported globally. After a hard-working day, everyone gathers around a fire in the evening, talks about how the daily life, and sings helpful songs, the traditional folk songs of the Nung'an, which breaks the stillness of this mountainous area. Seemingly, the dawn in Pac Rang comes sooner than in other regions. Leaving Pac Rang village, the tourist's impression of the human life and unique cultural identity here seems to remain. Local people's eyes, friendly smiles, and beautiful natural landscape shape a more colorful picture of this village and diverse emotion in sweet singing. Goodbye Pac Rang and hope to come back soon. Cao Bang's proximity to China has meant that it has had a somewhat turbulent history, having changed hands a number of times with 12 districts. Chungkhang district has many mountains, forests, rivers, and springs throughout. The area near Banzhou Waterfall is a well-known scenic tourist site. Banzhou Waterfall is a collective name for two waterfalls on the Guishan River that straddle the international border between China and Vietnam. More specifically, located between the karst hills of Daxing County, Guangxi, and Nam Thuy commune, Chungkhang district. The waterfall is 350 kilometers from Hanoi and 80 kilometers north of Cao Bang. It's reached via good national highway to Cao Bang City, and then several recently upgraded provincial roads, leading through fantastic countryside to the falls. You can visit to this area by bus, coach, or motorbike, and it often takes 2 or 3 hours to get there from the city. Banzhou Waterfall has known as one of the most beautiful and great landscape of Vietnam, also the greatest waterfall in Vietnam and Southeast Asia in general. Following to the history from Nguyen Dynasty, Banzhou belongs to Thuận Lang district in Chungkhang, Cao Bang, and it continues playing an important role with the economy and tourism of the province. A road running along the top of the falls leads to a stone marker that demarcates the border between China and Vietnam in French and Chinese. Modern disputes arose as there are discrepancies as to the correlating legal documents on border demarcation and the placement of markers between the French and Qing administrations in the 19th century. 20th century disputes cannot be resolved when inaccuracies in documents, maps, and descriptions that were made in the 19th century became difficult to universally comprehend. Disputes regarding the border demarcation at this location were settled in 1999 Vietnam-China Treaty on Land Borderline. Additional talks were held as late as 2009 to clarify the treaty. However, there are controversies regarding the border demarcation around the falls. One faction holds that the entirety of the falls belongs to Vietnam and that the stone tablet had been moved there sometime during or after the brief Sino-Vietnamese War of 1979. Also, the falls were not documented in any Chinese texts until recently, along the Vietnamese border, when in February 1979, Chinese forces entered Vietnam under the orders of Deng Xiaoping. Many people say that the entire part of Banzhou Waterfall belongs to Vietnam but invaded by China. But Vietnam's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Vũ Dung said the border was established under the convention between France and China in 1887 and between Vietnam and China in 1999. Until 2015, Vietnam and China still open talks to exploit together the potentials of the Bản Dốc waterfall. For Tích Trúc Lâm Bản Dốc, the first pagoda was built in 2013 in the border region in the north, in Phia Nhậm Mount, or at 500 meters from the Bản Dốc waterfall. The architecture of the Phật Tích Trúc Lâm Bản Dốc pagoda has the traditional style of the Vietnamese Buddhism. In Vietnamese, the two falls are considered as two parts of one waterfall with the sole name Bản Dốc. The two parts are main waterfall and subordinate waterfall. The waterfall drops 30 meters. It is separated into three falls by rocks and trees, and the thundering effect of the water hitting the cliffs can be heard from afar. It is currently the fourth largest waterfall along a national border, after Iguaju Falls, Victoria Falls, and Niagara Falls. Somewhat nearby is a 1,000 meters long by 200 meters wide Tongling Gorge in Jingxi County, Bay City of Guangxi, accessible only through a cavern from an adjoining gorge. Rediscovered only recently, it has many species of endemic plants found only in the gorge. Bản Dốc Waterfall, a famous destination while traveling in Vietnam, has already been voted as the most beautiful of the country, one of the 6 most beautiful waterfalls in China in 2005 by the China National Geographic magazine. The Bản Dốc waterfall is also the subject of paintings and unique photographs works. In addition to the values of nature, tourism, art, there is a rich hydropower potential. From 70 meters high, many large volumes of water fall through the steps of the limestone mountain. In the middle of the waterfall, a mountain-covered trees divides the Quang River in 3 water flows like white silk. On sunny days, the vapor of water often creates majestic rainbows. At the foot of the Bản Dốc waterfall, the transparent river is like a mural in the middle of green rice fields, forests. Visiting the falls from September to October is the most suitable and great time for the tourists, when the summer rains that feed the waterfall are less frequent and harvest is in full swing. Farming techniques can't have changed much here in centuries. Save for some mechanized rice threshers, most of the work is done by hand. You'll see along the banks of the river is the bamboo water wheel. This attractive and medieval-looking device scoops up water from the river, carries it up to the level of the fields, and drops it into the earth gutters, which channel the water into the fields to irrigate the crops. The path threads through rice fields, over wooden bridges above gurgling creeks, and onto an exposed grassy bank at the bottom of the falls. The white cascade is fringed with foliage and framed by sharp tooth-like limestone mountains, which are partly obscured by drifting clouds of vapor from all the spray generated by the waterfall. With a variety of landscapes and cultural places, many tourists have been attracted by the charm and natural beauty that they can't forget in every time they come to experience this beautiful mountainous area. Hoping that the cultural tourism and developing economy of Cao Bang will have many big changes in the future.